Hello everyone, here I'm going to show you how to set up a sitting drop plate with 3 different drops of multiple ratios. So first I put the plate holding the micro reservoir strips and I called it protein. And then I also choose my sitting drop plate. Here I'm going to use an IQ sitting drop plate and I can call it sitting drop. These namings are optional. I just do it so I can see it later in the next menu which plate is which. I can click on the plate of choice and say how much volume is the main reservoir. So let's say I have 30 microliter. Then I go from left to right and click on the protocol tab. And the first thing I want to do is I want to dispense the protein. So I choose aliquot between the different transfer type choices that I have. So I choose aliquot. And then I need to decide where this protein drop is gonna go. So I'm choosing this subwell, which happens to be subwell number 3. I can do these selections either on the graphic as I showed you or on the table above. So like subwell 2, subwell 3, as you wish. So then let's say I want to do different drop ratios. So let's say I want to do 150 to 50, 100 to 100, and 50 to 150 of protein to reservoir. So I start with 150. The tip changing should be between transfer with aliquot, which means don't change the tips unless you change the source column. So then what I do is I copy this and insert it after. This is with the new software. Otherwise, you can just copy this from the top menu using this function, copy transfer. So then you aliquot the same protein into subwell number 2, or actually subwell number 4, and here you change the volume to 100 and the tip changing stays as between transfer. Your dispense type is always going to be contact-based dispensing for better positional accuracy. So if you have an older version of the software, you just copy the transfer and it should copy it next, but here I'm going to insert it after. So then again, you are going from the same protein into the last subwell that is empty, and here you are going to do 50 nanoliter. So you have the protein at 150, 100, and 50 in different subwells of 3, 4, and 2. And with between transfer, you are not going to change the tips between these. So it's always going to be using the same tips to dispense the protein. You can see that by clicking on the test and seeing that the tips are not changed. Then you add a step, and in this step, you are going to copy the reservoir from the sitting drop plate on top of your protein. So you choose the reservoirs and you copy them on top of the first protein subwell. So if you choose subwell 3, you had 150. To keep the total drop volume as 200, I'm going to add 50. I'm just changing the ratios. And then I copy this and insert it after. And in this step, I'm going to copy the reservoir on top of subwell number 4. So I can change it either here or on the graphic. And then I'm going to again copy and insert after. And in this case, I'm going to copy the reservoir on top of subwell number 2. And I have to make sure my volumes are right. So number 4 gets 100 and number 2 gets 150. And the tip changing, here is a trick. You usually use always with copy to avoid cross-contamination. But here, your protein is always coming from the same source. It's always the first column. So you can technically touch the protein drops between copying the reservoir on top of them. That's why you use a different tip changing in this case, which is multi-dispense. So in this case, 300 nanoliter of reservoir will be aspirated and then dispensed in subwell 3, 4, and 2. So therefore, you are going to save on tips and on time. So if you look at how the protocol works, it's going to aspirate 300 and dispense 50, 100, and 150 in 3 different subwells. So I would like to mention that doing this type of multi-drop with different ratios where you dispense the protein first and then cover it with the reservoir is better to be done when you have high humidity, which can be achieved by having a humidity chamber. For example, our active humidity chamber provides 80 to 90% humidity around the plates. Otherwise, you run into the risk of drying out the drops and you have to do aliquot followed by copy. So we recommend having a humidity chamber if you want to do this type of protocol.